Some great photographs from our friends over at Roll Call Newspaper. A special thank you to the photographers over there. Welcome back to Roll Call TV. With me now is JP Finley, Roll Call softball reporter. JP, welcome.
Thank you.
Let's talk about some ball. I mean, this is a fun show to talk about sports and politics. For a few moments, we talked about the similarities between the two, but I want to get from you the synergy and the bipartisanship that happens on the quote-unquote softball field when Congress is in session and without in session.
Sure. I mean, softball really lets a lot of the staffers go out there and just have fun after a long day with a lot of legislative issues going on. And the teams really just leave all the workplace stuff there. They go out on the field and just enjoy themselves.
And let's talk about some of the teams. You have, I can't even, the Palmetto Pineapples.
Palmetto Pineapples.
That was after Senator Inouye from Hawaii and also Fritz Hollings.
Yeah, Hollings from South Carolina. They kind of combined the two. Palmetto State and clearly Pineapples from Hawaii. And
you also have Senator Dianne Feinstein's team from California, which is named?
They go by Never Say Die.
Never Say Die, for Die Fi.
Exactly. Another good one is the Vermafia from Senator Leahy's office, representing Vermont. One interesting one, especially right now, is the Blue Pups. They are a collection of staffers from various Blue Dog members, and they go by the Blue Pups, and they're actually defending champs in the House League.
Let's talk for a few moments about the members of Congress that actually come out to cheer their teams, or perhaps maybe just to break some bread and just to look at a softball team. What are some members of Congress, particularly I think you know some senators, that actually come out and root for their home team?
Sure, sure. Senator Specter came out earlier in the year.
Democrat from Pennsylvania.
Right, and Senator Collins came out.
Republican from Maine.
Yep, and I spoke with some of the players on the Lobsters, the Maine team, and they said specifically that it really meant a lot that Senator Collins came out, and they won that game, and they're in very good shape to make the playoffs.
Wow. Speaking of which, what are some of the best teams out there?
You have three leagues. There's the Congressional League, the House League, and the Senate League. In each league, there's a different first-place team. The Congressional League, the best team is the Balco Bombers. They are way out in front in the league. They get their name from the Balco Drug Cooperative that supposedly made these steroids.
You got to give them, they're very creative, these guys.
A lot of these team names are funny. The House League is the Dead Presidents. When they're out on the field, everybody's number corresponds to a president.
I see.
The guy who wears number 8 is their team captain, and everybody calls him Van Buren on the field. The Senate League's a little different. It's divided up into 8 divisions, and each division has a leader. So each division probably has 8 or 10 teams. Probably the best 2 teams in the Senate are the RBIs of Texas, which is kind of a coalition of various Texas staffers, and then Well Swung, which is kind of a mishmash of a lot of different folks.
Absolutely fascinating. JP, we got about a minute and a half left. Tell me, where do they play? Do they play at softball teams or games, or do they play on the mall? Where do they play at?
Most of the games are played on the mall. I went to a game last night that was right in front of the Smithsonian Castle, killer view of the Washington Monument in front of us and the Capitol behind us. Some of the games are played down at like 23rd and Constitution by the Lincoln Memorial, and then some of the games are played in Anacostia by the Langston Golf Course, by RFK Stadium.
And how long is the season, typically?
It starts about the end of May, and then the end-of-year tournaments, which determine the champions, are a couple weekends in September.
Wow. And lastly, can you tell us about who is the number 2 team in the Congressional League? Do you know that? Is that the DNC? Is that the NRSC?
The NRSC Pirate Crushers. They actually just had a tough loss last night to Balco. But they're looking great, and whenever they match up against the DNC, it's usually a pretty well-attended affair.
2 things. One, it appears that you have one of the best jobs in Washington, and that is just to write about something that's fun, that's different, that's light. And my second observation is good for the teams to go out there and literally to break bread and just to kind of leave all your stresses behind and to play ball. That's a wonderful, wonderful pastime.
Absolutely. I mean, when the NRSC team plays the DNC, end of the game, everybody goes through, shakes hands, maybe they share a beer afterwards, and everybody just enjoys it.
So true bipartisanship.
Absolutely.
And I think that's very important. We got about 10 seconds left. I think that's very, very important to kind of denote to the friends and family and viewers out there, is that you hear about the Republicans and Democrats about health care and about Social Security and everything, but there really is true friendship on Capitol Hill in and around Washington, D.C., no?
Absolutely. You see it every day on the field. Absolutely.
JP Finley, thank you so very much for stopping. We've got to have you back on.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
And coming up next on our Herd on the Hill segment, a trip down memory lane with guess who? Mark Sanford. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. And welcome back. Time now for our Herd on the Hill segment with a very familiar face, Emily Holliff, Roll Call Newspaper. Emily, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too,
You enjoying your
Robert?
August so far?
So far, so good.
Staying cool?
A little hot, but you know, what can you do? That's August in D.C.
I should have like an Evian spritzer here just to kind of spritz on
That
you a
would
little
be
bit.
nice.
Well, speaking of the heat and comfortable, attire, apparently there's a little bit of consternation, I guess, in Washington, D.C. with some lawmakers wearing sandals.
Yes, and
Tell us about it.
we've noticed this summer that there are female members of Congress wearing open-toed shoes, like sandals, with most of your foot exposed. And this is something we've seen interns, do pretty frequently, and even sometimes staffers. But I think it's new that female members are wearing these toe-exposing sandals. So I'm thinking, I wonder if this is still a faux pas, or have the rules changed? Because there has been a lot of relaxing of dress code rules, especially in regards to women. You don't have to wear the boxy suit anymore. You can go for the Michelle O dress kind of style. But apparently, and so I checked with a fashion expert, went right to the source. There's a woman who runs a really great blog about Capitol Hill fashion called Capitol Hill Style. Checked with her, she said, yes, it is still a faux pas, still a no-no. So I'm calling a couple members of Congress out on that.
Interesting. Well, I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was the women's volleyball team came to the White House.
That's right. There's that famous picture.
Correct. And they wore sandals to the White House. And that was a big no-no because, you would think that you would dress up a little bit more appropriately when you're reading the President of the United States.
Right. And actually, all those girls were dressed really appropriately. It was the footwear that was the problem.
That's true.
That's
true.
So
That's
it
very
is
true.
still a no-no.
Interesting. Well, speaking of no-nos, there's a lot of folks in this town, I guess around the country, that say, you know what, whatever Mark Sanford's doing, I don't want to be a part of it. But let's talk about his sleeping arrangements.
Well, this is interesting. When the whole Mark Sanford scandal broke, we checked back in Roll Call's archives. He, of course, was a member of Congress.
From South Carolina.
From South Carolina for 3 terms. And we found something interesting about his sleeping arrangements. In 1995, he was actually quoted in a Roll Call story about members of Congress who slept in their offices. So apparently, he's a very wealthy man. Before he came to Congress, had made a lot of money, but he chose to sleep in his office. He said at the time that he wanted to not get too comfortable with the Washington sort of atmosphere, and he wanted to make it easier to get back to South Carolina. It made him want to go back home more. I don't know how that worked out.
Well, we'll just leave it at that. We'll leave people guessing. Emily House, always good to see you.
Good to be here.
Hopefully you're enjoying the rest of your summer.
And you'll do the same.
And hopefully you're not wearing sandals. Okay, thanks for watching, everyone. We thank you, as always, for taking some time to spend some time with us. If you want to keep up with us, feel free to friend us on Facebook or email us at news@rollcalltv.com. Take care. Have a good week.